Hi, I'm Jill, and this tutorial is really just going to take you through our standard report functions, and it's really just to familiarize you with how to navigate in a report, how to set certain report features or filters, and how to work with some of the shortcuts that we've got available to you. So it's fairly simple, and by the end of it, you should be able to apply this knowledge to virtually all the reports in ResRequest. So let's take a look. So I'm going to use a fairly common report, which is called the standard report. Most of our reports, as you know, are selected from the main menu into a submenu called reports. And I'm going to use the standard reservation report. Now, all of our reports are divided into two main sections. The top section is the section where you define your filters for the report. And then once you've generated the report, the bottom section will include any data that's relevant to based on the filters that you have defined in the report. So most reports include a date range. Well, it can include a date range or a start date, depending on what the actual report does. In this case, my report is going to pull up any reservations that are traveling on or between the date range that I select. So I'm going to set my date range to all for the purposes of this demonstration. If you would like to refine results, at this point, if I generated the report, it would literally list all reservations in my system. But if I wanted to refine them and select perhaps only for certain properties, I can then go in and I filter the results for the report using the report filters. And the report filters are obviously labels that are also buttons. If I click on them, it results in a pop-up opening up. And each of these pop-ups have different ways to actually deselect very quickly or select all or search. So I'm going to show you a couple of them. This particular report has this lovely deselect all or select all option, or I can go in and I can say I don't want to see that particular property, and you'll see that the room types or accommodation types are automatically deselected, and perhaps I also don't want to see Robben Island, and it automatically deselects that, and perhaps I don't want to see the guide tent at Beach Lodge. When I click on OK, you'll notice on the report filter sections here that to the right of the property and accommodation filter, it now shortlists the filter settings that I had applied earlier on. So at any point, I can look at the top section of my screen and see what filters I've actually applied. In most of our reports, we have an advanced options section, which operates as most reports do. It just gives you more filters that you can apply to your data output. If I go in to work with one of the filters that, for example, the agent filter, if the database includes a lot of data for that, you also have the option to do a quick search. So let's say, for example, I only want to see bookings for any agent that starts with the letter B. That means I can type in B and add an asterisk afterwards, which operates as a wildcard, which means anything that starts with B and follows with anything else, please find in my search. So when I click on go, it's going to search through my agent list and only list agents where the agent name starts with the letter B. And at this point, I can click on OK. And what that means is it's going to filter my results to say all bookings at my luxury tents, sea view in those room types, where the agent is beach breaks and boutique travelers, is going to be included in the report output. Now at this point, I'd go in and generate the report. Each report's generator options is slightly different. In the standard report, I have 4 different options available. I can generate it as a list report, item report, etc. And if you'd like to find out more details on how those functions work that's specific to a report, then make sure that you find a tutorial that we have that's talking specifically about the standard report. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to show you how to work with the list report. So what the list report does is it generates a list of all reservations based on the filter criteria that I have set in my filters. And here you go. Here's a list listed below. So a couple of things to note. If I want to change my filter settings, I can go back up to my show filters, select it, and I'm back to changing my filter settings. Let me go and hide that again to make it easier. You'll also notice that when the report generates, I see all my report options or my data options. I can open this as a PDF. I can email it as a PDF to somebody else. I can export my report results so that I can work with them in tools like Excel or perhaps OpenOffice, or even Google Charts or Google Sheets. Down in the area where my data is actually displayed, there's a couple of nice shortcuts for you. At the top of each column, we've got these little sort arrows, and if you click on either of them, it means that that column will be sorted in ascending or descending order. Some of our columns also include these little arrows that point across. Now, these little arrows basically mean you can collapse the column. So if I click on voucher, it collapses it. You'll notice that as soon as I've collapsed something, Show All Columns button becomes available, and if I click on that, it obviously displays everything again to me. You'll also notice in your report that if you hover over the report data in most places, it highlights it in a green link row. If I click on it at this point, it will take me into that specific record. So in this case, it's going to take me to the reservation WB34. So I'm going to click on that, and it loads up the reservation screen. A nice shortcut way to go through every single booking that was listed in that report, I can use my back and forward record set scrolls that's on my toolbars. So in this case, it went to WB34, and if I wanted to scroll to the next reservation that was listed in the report, I click on next record, and it takes me now to WB33, and I can go again. If at any point I'd like to return back to the last report I used, I can use my last report icon on my toolbar. So if I click on that, it will return me back to the last report. So you'll see there again, just to show you quickly, I click on the reservation, and then I can use these buttons to scroll through the list of reservations that were displayed in my report. At any point, if I'd like to return to my last report, I click on my last report button, and it takes me back. And that's it for this particular tutorial. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please do carry on looking at part 2 where we talk about report profiles.